Welcome to the Binge Thinker, episode 67. My name is Jamil Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here as always. On this week's episode, we are talking about Friar Mode, the new monk mode, a term that I have hopefully coined. And I've already had one stutter into the start of this episode. What a fucking great start, but we push on anyway. You might also hear in the background, dear listener, a bit of tapping. I think I've got neighbours now. They're doing a bit of reno work. And look, they're allowed to. It's Sunday, 4 o'clock. But that tapping is penetrating to the eardrum. Really, really loud. Surprisingly, given that most of this house that I live in is actually quite sealed when it comes to sound. But you might hear a bit of tapping. We call that in the business authenticity. I'm just like you, folks. I'm just like you. I've got annoying neighbors just like you. Anyway, on this week's episode, we're talking about Friar Mode, the new monk mode. Monk mode, if you don't know what it is, it's something that's been popularized by a lot of the self-development community. People like Dan Coe, Ross Harkness, etc. And it's something that I've certainly applied into my own life and is very beneficial. And also coming into this time of year where it's early in the year and I think you can hear ambulances. Footscray, baby. It is what it is. God bless the West. Anyway, talking about starting a year off, maybe what 2024 is going to be your transformative year. You want to hunker down. You want to get better. You're like, this is it, man. This is my year. I'm going to fucking do some shit, but I don't know how. Perfect episode for you. We're going to talk about monk mode, the benefits, where I've done it, how you can make the most out of monk mode, and then what is Friar Mode? It's the advanced monk mode for someone that's practiced it a few times like myself. But without further ado, let's go. So monk mode. What is it? You may be able to sort of put the pieces together yourself. It's this concept where you shut yourself from the outside world for a time, like a monk in a monastery, and commit to a period of self-reflection, focus on yourself, and, sort of take these oaths of simplicity for a while. And I'm a big fan of it. I do appreciate that monk mode has its uses. I've used monk mode a few times and I'm about to do so again. So I thought, why not talk about the process itself for other people? What's good for me is what's good for you. And with monk mode, it is this deep, immense period where you just focus on yourself. You don't let the outside world distract you for a period of time. And it's a great way to do a systematic, what would you call it? An audit of every aspect of your life, right? Where did I start doing monk mode? Monk mode was forced upon us all a couple of years ago. It was called the pandemic. Ever heard of it? With the pandemic, particularly here in Melbourne, in Australia, where the longest pandemics and the longest lockdowns in the world had occurred, when the first lockdowns had started, pretty much this time, 3 years ago now, right, we're approaching 2021, yep. We hadn't been locked down yet, but there were murmurs this time of the year. I mean, it feels like a fucking eternity ago if you think about that lockdowns only started like just 3 years ago, but it felt like an eternity since then. God damn. But the lockdowns, they forced us to cocoon in here in Melbourne, only outside for 1 hour per day. Some of you will recognize it. Some of you have repressed the trauma of it. Fair enough. But getting into monk mode was where I did that in the first lockdowns, where everyone was freaking out about, what does this mean for me in the world and everything that I'm doing with myself? What does this mean for my daily life and who I am? Very rational and valid fears. However, in my perspective, I had been a couple of months past my initial epiphany of where I was like, dude, it's all up to you to fucking get your life together, get in there, get your shit done. So that happened February. Oh, it wasn't 2020. Sorry, guys. 2020 is that crazy year. I'm losing track of time. I don't know if it's the crazy period of time or it's the weed. Who knows? Anyway, November 2019, there we go, is when I broke up with my partner, had the epiphany. 2020 is when the world got really weird, lockdowns. There we go. So in that liminal phase between epiphany and actually getting the work done, in that 4 months, I was getting prepared to be like, I've really got to change my fucking life here. And yeah, the moment that the lockdowns had kicked in, from probably about March 1st, 2020, actually, I remember quite clearly because it coincided pretty much with the same time that I started coaching with Nikita and started my physical transformation. But yes, the time that I saw coming with the pandemic, not that I knew at this point that it was going to be for so long, was to go, sweet, I can hide away from the rest of the world and just get shit done. The beautiful synchronicity and convenience of the lockdowns was that I was not expected to be anywhere, right? We were all locked down, trying to prevent the spread and all that good shit. And, you know, instead of having to worry about what was out there, what I was missing, I didn't feel like I had much missing because I didn't have really much going on outside of myself except for my family, who I did not realize how much at that time, how traumatized I was by them. My friends, sure, absolutely. But, you know, I'd lost a fair chunk of my friend group by breaking up with my partner. So the idea behind this monk mode is to just hide, is to disappear from the world and cut and audit every source of energy and input into your life. That's the main benefit of monk mode, particularly for the first time when you're doing it, right? It's a great way to really take yourself out of social situations that you feel like you're compelled to do. And you might come to realize how disorganized and how out of touch you are with yourself and your nervous system, for example. Because that's what certainly happened to me, is that I didn't realize how anxious I had been and how much of my actions had been defined by a degree of social anxiety and personal and traumatic anxiety until I went through monk mode and I was removed from social situations. And I had actually had a calm nervous system consistently for the first time pretty much my entire life, really. And that's what I suspect with a lot of people that are out there, is that one of my biggest learnings from all of my transformation and growth has been about regulating my nervous system, my nervousness, my anxiety. And I don't think until you are outside of these environments that you put yourself into because you feel compelled to, for social reasons, societal reasons, whatever, you don't realize how much they're actively negatively affecting you and how much more peace you would have by being away from these situations, because you are unaware of the energy, you are not introspective, you are so wholly focused on the outside world and being in the outside world that there is no time and space for you to audit and assess and get to know yourself, right? And with monk mode, that the removal of those distractions, right? Not having to go to the pub with your mates, you know, not going on fucking benders and writing yourself off on the weekends because you think that's what you have to do. Maybe not being around certain family members or being in, you know, social situations that give you anxiety and a bit of grief, but you put up with them anyway. It gives you a perfect, the lockdowns gave me a perfect reason to not be present for all those things. And it gave me the opportunity to, analyze, self-reflect, go in deep and pay attention to myself instead of the outside world, the constant distraction of the outside world. Now, of course, you can definitely distract yourself, you know, inside as well with your phones and, you know, the internet and apps and all that sort of stuff. But at least with monk mode, it prevents you from the external, right? And that's a fair chunk of it, particularly if you're someone like me who was having an issue with social calories, right? When you go out, have a few beers, you're getting a kebab at the end of the night, and it's undoing all of the work that you've done throughout the week with your good cardio and you're compliant with your diet and you're getting better at those sorts of things. So, yeah, removing the external distractions, turning inward into yourself, and really focusing on creating good habits and great systems, right? Being disciplined, creating discipline for yourself, right? Forming that habit. And that's something that I certainly did in that first, lockdown, in my first monk mode period, is that I had to just shut my fucking anxious brain up about what I thought I should be doing. I'm not doing enough. I should be doing more. Maybe if I take a shortcut, I can get to this faster. And that's when I started to just listen to the help that I needed and put in front of me to help me get better, right? That would be Nikita with my physical transformation and my diet coach, and then my therapist, Cecilia, about getting some help for my mental health, my anxiety, just getting my feelings out and expressing myself properly for the first time. So that's what the immense value of monk mode is, that it gives you space to audit. It gives you space to get in touch with yourself, right? And you'll come to realize that there are so many things that are not actually important or necessarily serve you in your day-to-day life that could not be removed or just, gotten rid of, right? And you don't value them as much, and they're not necessary. Like post-pandemic, from the lockdowns into now, I definitely go out a lot less than I used to, and I'm not interested in drinking as much anymore. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily because I'm just becoming an old fart and I'm so focused on achieving things in my own life and working on stuff, or the fact that I'm over 30 and being in a loud nightclub or a loud pub doesn't appeal to me anymore. But there is certainly this element of not wanting to drink. I don't really care to drink. I don't feel compelled to drink as much as I used to. And I don't really feel compelled to just be in company for the sake of being out, right? It's like there are certain people that I wasn't getting enough out of in my life that served me. And, I'm catching up with people that are no longer part of my life, really, because they were just there because they were there. And we were just built into this habit of hanging up and catching out. Were we really exchanging good vibes? Were we really filling each other's cup with each other's presence? Probably not, right? Probably not. And that's what happens, is that you sort of fast track this evolution and this maturity of yourself. You increase your vibration, right? You hopefully pull yourself out of lower vibes, and you are cutting parts of yourself off and pruning elements of your life that are bad energy and that no longer serve you anymore. That's one of the great reasons of monk mode, is that when you put everything on hold, right? All your commitments, all your external ideas of what you think you should be doing, put them on hold and take a second to reflect on those things, to ask yourself whether they really are serving you in this current time or not, and then doing something about it, right? Is that we get pulled so easily into the distractions of the outside world every single day. It's rush, rush, rush. Here's, what's my calendar look like? What do I have to do for other people? What's going on in the news? That we don't often take time to look in and really ask ourselves whether what we're doing right now is serving us, right? So this audit, this cutting yourself off and just going, hang on a second here. Do I need this? Do I really need this in my life? One of the biggest and most major benefits of monk mode right there. The other area is focusing on your self-development, all right, is without this social time being wasted elsewhere, with your weekends freed up, and you're not taking backward steps with social calories or not doing the work because you're too hungover, it allows you a clean, unhurried state to build good habits. Right? I did not have good habits around nutrition for years until I got in touch with Nikita. I had no problem going to the gym 3 times a week, but I didn't do cardio, and I didn't manage a consistent calorie intake, and I didn't know what what mix of macronutrients and calories to intake in that time. And that's what I did during that lockdown. I would create, create them, I suppose, 3 good quality meals every day, almost unheard of when you're a single man, to be making 3 decent meals for yourself every single day. And I'm even impressing myself right now, because I need to get back into some of these better habits as well. Hence why I'm getting into monk and friar mode as well. But yeah, 3 square meals a day, making sure that I, did my dieting, make sure I did my exercise every day, including 3 hours of steady state cardio. During the lockdowns, I had to buy one of those bike mounts. So it basically puts your back tire of your bike up on some sort of, it's like a treadmill for a bike. So but you just pedal in the same place. It gives you resistance, but you just pedal in the same place. Or I would do hill repeats of walking up and down hills and high incline staircases that I could find in the streets in Footscray during the lockdowns. But with this time, you are just, getting your good habits, your diet, exercise, sleep, mental health habits, spiritual tools and spiritual habits, reflection, journaling, just rebuilding those good habits and implementing them every single day. That's what this space is for, right? Is to restructure yourself and build that structure into yourself. And a good day of diet, exercise, sleep, journaling, meditation is a fucking fantastic day when you are starting out. If you can just tick the boxes that you need to, that you're working on, that is a great day. You don't have to do any more. And then you can, play a video game, have a little bit of fun, relax a little bit, do your hobbies, right? In this monk mode, the structure, the silence, and the focus on yourself is the goal. And building those habits, right, is really, really focusing on yourself and getting that initial momentum right. As energetic creatures, right, I'm going to talk about in the next few weeks some not wild stories and theories of the universe I have that are actually quite real, but they get a little bit woo-woo, and is the real fun stuff of my integration of technology and spirituality. I'm quite excited to talk about it. But just to say, right, as we are energetic beings, right, we are comprised of energy. And because we are energy, right, just very densely packed elements of energy put together, binding together water and minerals and flesh and all of that, we have to comply with the rules of energy. There are the laws of physics, the laws of thermodynamics, right? And one of those things is about energy. And one of those things is that as energetic creatures, energy does not get destroyed. It gets converted into different matter. However, there is no such thing as a self-perpetuating machine in the world of physics and thermodynamics. What does that mean? A system cannot be self-sustaining, right? All energy is subject to entropy. Entropy is the degradation of form and structure into into nothingness. And there are no self-perpetuating energy machines. What does that mean? It means that every machine, every process requires an input of energy, of resources, so an output can come out, right? Think about everything that exists on the planet. We need to sleep as human beings. We need to eat. We need to get sun. Every machine that operates needs some sort of power, right? There's nothing that is self-fulfilling. Even solar-powered stuff that is out in the middle of fucking whoop-whoop, can to a degree be self-perpetuating, but it still requires inputs to exist, right? And to get moving. So where does this this energy comes from us? It comes from our conscious will, the machine of who we are, the complex organism that we are, a complex array of organic systems integrated together, stuff that I've talked about on this podcast. But the hardest part is building that momentum for the machine to get going, to get from 0 to 1, that first step, right? It's the first steps are always the hardest because it requires the most energy and the most input to get going off a flat start, right? When you start a car, when they say, all the acceleration and all the acceleration, especially when you stop and start traffic and you're in that situation, that's what burns the most petrol in your car because you have to consume the most energy to get the machine moving forward, right? Same applies to yourself as human beings. To change ourselves, to evolve, we need to put the most energy and the most focus, the most attention at the start to get ourselves into the habit and build those habits from a blank slate, to go from 0 to 1. Why is that? The reason why that is because we are actively, when we learn, we are forcibly rewiring our brains and forcing ourselves to create new neural pathways that have never been there before. And when you try to walk a path that has not been laid down for you, right? If you think about a footpath, a concrete footpath versus taking a shortcut that is better for you but hasn't been developed, maybe it's a bunch of grass and weeds, it's harder to get through that path at first, right? Because you have to traipse through the unknown, the jungle, the unfamiliar to get to that better way that you can see. And that inefficiency, because those neural pathways, that path hasn't been built to the better way, the mental energy and effort that it requires to get your mind, your muscles, your thoughts together, rewiring different neurons in your brain to fire and wire together, that is the extra effort that is required. That's what I feel so tough, and it can feel so draining at first to create good habits, is because from a biological and a physiological level, we are forcing ourselves into a new direction, neurologically, biologically, right? And that has to come from a mental vision of within. How do you make the unknown known? You have to visualize it. That's why visualization and meditation is so powerful, and manifesting, when done properly, is so powerful, because you are basically creating the groundwork of thinking ahead of how does success look like, and how are you going to feel, and what are you going to do when you are this better person. And that visualization sets the groundwork, right? And that's what it sharpens the axe of the tool that you're going to use to execute, to cut down and create that path for the better. So that's why monk mode is so useful, because it does take more energy, it takes more focus, it takes more dedication to make large shifts into your life. Right? It takes so much more, especially when you are going all in on yourself, right? If you're someone like me that was like, fuck this, I have this laundry list of shit that I want to do for myself and get done and achieve within myself, and I got to get it all fucking done now, and nothing else is more important, so I'm going to fuck the world off and get it done, because if I don't, I'm so fucking sick of who I am in this present moment that it all needs to go and change and nothing else is more important. That is what monk mode is for, right? That is your ability to just be like, fuck this, I'm out for a second. The life that I am living, the flow of life that I am being pushed down, the river of my existence is not for me. I need to get off for a second and change my trajectory, all right? And that uncommon path to you, that unknown path to you, and carving that out is the pain of new, is the pain of different, right? But it needs to be done, because if you didn't feel like you were suffering so much that you need to do something, you've gotten to a point where you're suffering so much that the pain of something new seems, less painful and more appealing than the pain of where you are, you've got to fucking go. And that's what happened to me, right? Straight up, that's what happened to me. I was so sick of myself, and I was in so much internal pain that all of the new and different that I had fantasized about for so long and daydreamt about for years didn't seem as scary, because everything else sucked in my life. And that's the sad reality of it. And that's why I keep talking to you guys about it, because I know I'm not the only one that's lived through this. There are people that might be living through this in some way or form now and need the help. And that's why we do this, right? That's why we do this podcast. So that is the benefit and the beauty of monk mode, is that you just get to fucking lock in, fuck the world off, and get it done, right? So the first monk mode for me was about, start of the pandemic, first lockdowns. What did I get done in that first array of lockdowns? The physical transformation, right? Got fucking shredded. Got fucking sexy, mad sexy from March to about June, July. It took me about 16 weeks to get fucking ripped, baby, because I had nothing else to do. And I wanted nothing more in my life than to finally prove to myself that I could do it. And that's what happened. First 6 months, absolutely fantastic. Got shredded, got lean, and started to work on my mental health. Right? It's a longer game. Your mental health game is a much longer game. It's an eternal game compared to physical health. Physical health can be fixed if just general to schlubby within 6 months. I've come to realize that now myself. The mental game, the spiritual game, those are eternal games. I'm still fighting my mental game every single day, which has been the basis of this podcast, and we'll keep talking about it even in this episode. Right? So the second time I went through monk mode was right after I got made redundant a couple of years ago. And the reason why I went into monk mode was because I was lost in the woods. I was directionless. I was neck deep in wounding. My abandonment wound was massively damaged and massively hit after being made redundant from Telstra when I didn't want to be. And I was trying to figure out my next moves, and I was chasing 2 rabbits at a time with ACN and Tech Sales Academy, frantically just building these businesses without a clue. I just was furious and desperate to create my own freedom. And also, when I was made redundant in June 2021, there were still lockdowns. There were still Melbourne lockdowns. I mean, they're a bit, at that point, a bit like, come on, guys, what are you being locked down for at that point? But it is what it is. And so those lockdowns, hang on, where am I going with that one? Yeah, those lockdowns, I was forced to stay in monk mode. I wanted to go away. I was trying to go to Byron Bay, get some time off, take my head out of this fucking shitty place that I was in, and just sort of reconnect with myself and get some fresh air on the whole situation. Didn't work out, didn't pan out, but again, 12 months later, having a great time. It is what it is. That could be one of the themes that's a recurring theme of my life, isn't it? It is what it is. Anyway. So didn't really get much out of the second monk mode. Wasn't as structured. My anxiety was through the roof. Very traumatized. Desperately in survival mode. Didn't have any financial security. But didn't think. But how do I put this? Useful nonetheless, right? It is a useful tool to have in your arsenal that you are willing to just obliterate the rest of the world and hone in and focus and prove to yourself. That's another thing, the proving to yourself more than anything else that you can do it. Whatever you've been putting off for a long time. Whatever you've bullshitted yourself that you said you would do but haven't done, right? Getting integrity back to yourself is one of the biggest boons and one of the biggest gifts that I've gotten from that time. It's something that I do forget from time to time, which we'll keep talking about. But especially if you have made continual promises to yourself, but have bargained your way out of actually getting shit done. And bargaining is a big, I would say, form of the shadow, right? The bargaining. Because I bargain with myself a lot, and that is the temptation of just a little bit. This will be fine. And that bargaining is the first hint of losing that vigilance on yourself, right? So keep an eye out in your mind for bargaining. Big little tip there in life and in general. What else did I have here? Yeah, okay. Talking about systems in monk mode. Oh no, I'll talk about Friar Mode, and then we'll talk about the systems if you were to put monk mode in for yourself, because I'm about to jump into my third monk mode, which is why I thought it would be perfectly timed to talk about this now. With my third monk mode, I'm about to enter that now. All right. I'm not afraid to cut the world off. I've been doing so. I've had versions of monk mode and have been surprisingly in monk mode for maybe most of 2023. I'd say from about April onwards, to varying degrees. I was just working on the course, working on my ideas, and slowly developing the concepts over time. But now that I am a free bird as of next week, self-employed, out of the Cisco ecosystem, and I've had these nice little crumbs of success and interest in what I'm doing coming to me, talking about Tech Sales Academy and whatnot. Now that it's time to go all in on this, I've decided to go into monk mode to try and get version 1 of the course out. And that'll probably start from, basically it should have started now, which it has, but I haven't done it well. And I'm hoping that this monk mode should only really last a couple of months, maybe to like mid-March, end of March is what I'm thinking at this point. But the next 3 months at least are going to be monk mode or friar mode, right? So maybe let's talk about what friar mode is. Friar mode is a concept that I sort of put together because if you don't know what a friar is, they're like a monk. But monks are more insular. They're usually in a monastery. They've both committed to a life of piety, of dedication to Christ or religion, not necessarily Christ, but their religion, their cause. But friars are more in the outside world. They are more sociable. They don't have to necessarily just be monks. They can actually have positions and employment outside of religious context, but often just ministers or librarians or something like that. That's something that's adjunct to the church or whatever. And also with friars, they're more social. They're more jovial. Right? The reason why I said monk mode as opposed to friar mode, or friar mode as opposed to monk mode rather, is friars, there's something called the Friars Club in the US, in New York, and it's a private club which was the birthplace of roast comedy. So roast comedy is that thing where, it's insult comedy. So people get together, comedians and celebrities alike, and they get together and they do roast jokes where they make fun of each other. And it's all for a laugh. And sometimes it can get heavy, don't get me wrong, and it can get a little, it can be hurtful. But it's personally one of my favorite forms of comedy is roasting people and just putting together great insults and great jokes together. One of my favorites. So with the Friars Club, it's about that camaraderie. It's about that entertainment, right? And the reason why I want to integrate friar mode is because, quite honestly, one of the biggest challenges, particularly for myself in this point, and will be a challenge for the monks out there, the emerging monks, is connection, right? There is this element of loneliness that comes with monk mode, right? It's because you are cutting yourself off and doing this complete audit of your social connections. The bad and the good get, the good and the bad get, cut away together, right? And also when you are in this monk mode, particularly when you are so neck deep in doing the work and heavily in your masculine and fixing yourself, you can often fall into the trap of losing that, that feeling part of you, the feminine, the rest, the integration, right, of the inner self. And that is something that I have found myself to be in right now. If I was to be perfectly honest, which I am with you guys, is that this is what I talked about last week, is that, yeah, man, like I would love to have more connection in my life at this point, but I am so fucking focused on getting this course done and getting this work done that it's a struggle for me to juggle that. And it's a constant challenge every day to not want to just fuck everything off and, not necessarily just meet friends, but just connect with people and enjoy the present moment, right? I will say that these last few weeks, since last episode, and basically since I got back from Hawaii, is that, yeah, I've been working way too much and spinning my wheels out of straight anxiety in this transition between being unemployed to being self-employed. And I'm sensing again that I am on a negative trajectory as far as not having balance in my life of good social connections, even just being outside and enjoying the day, right? I am constantly under this grey cloud, which is kind of ironic given the fact that Melbourne's absolutely pissing down right now. It's one of the worst summers that we've had in ages, although I am a little bit sunburnt after yesterday's beautiful day and I spent too long at the beach. But just, not rebalancing myself, I'm working without living, right? And yes, there are these periods in your life where you need to do that, hence why I'm going monk mode, but there is this element of getting outside and remembering why you're working so hard to enjoy life. And if you're like me and you are anxious and you are constantly worrying about the future, and particularly that's what I'm doing now because there is this degree of financial insecurity that I have from not being employed that I'm having to manage, my mind is constantly fixated on the lack that I don't have in the future and the potential of my money to run out and having financial insecurity. It's a big fear of mine. And it's irrational because I've got months of savings ready to go. I have put myself in a bit of a negative situation by investing in coaching, which maybe might not necessarily be well timed, but we'll see. But yeah, there is this aspect of me going, fuck, I'm going to run out of money in 5 or 6 months. I have to fucking get everything done now, or else I'm fucked. Which is not necessarily true, right? I can get a job. I've got a high demand skill in a high demand industry. This is the exact same problem that I thought I had 2 years ago when I was in the woods trying to figure out what I was doing with myself and then eventually got my job at Cisco. So I do recognize that I am in this similar cycle and I am realizing that this workaholic behavior, this all work and no play is costing me. And I am straying away from the reason why some of the reasons I wanted freedom in the first place, which was to live more, which was to create and do the things that I want to do in life, which is not just work more, but create and play music and do more comedy and connect with people. And this is, live life fuller. But besides yesterday, which technically was, I still did some work in the morning, I've only really I haven't had more than 2 days in a row off. I haven't had 2 days in a row off, actually. I've had 1 day off to myself in a month plus, including the shitty time of year that we're in now, where you're supposed to do fucking nothing anyway. I've been working like a fucking dog, mate. Getting up at 6, working from 6 till 12, unbroken, having to go to the gym, not eating my first meal till 2 o'clock, then trying to do a bunch of more work till about 7 p.m. until I'm like, shit, I have to fucking eat and live a life, end up eating too much because I haven't had enough calories for the day. And I just spend the evening just bloated and exhausted, potter myself to bed, wake up, do it again. And I've barely spoken to anyone. And I can feel myself just degrading, right? In the world of The Sims, if you have played The Sims, my social meter is going down. And it's like, well, is this really worth it? If my mental health is degrading in my current state, what am I working so hard for? What is the point of this? So that's what I do, is that I'm forcing better frameworks into myself. I still want to become that monk, and I still want to hunker down and focus. But the whole point of Friar Mode and evolution of Monk Mode is to make sure I foster connections, and I foster, an appreciation for the current moment, and I take more care of myself. And remember that I'm working to live here. And what does that look like? That looks like catching up with friends, right? And actually not saying, hey, no, go out to lunch with your friends, catch up with my family a little bit more, maybe make space for a date or two. Don't forget what you are building for. All right, it reminds me of that analogy of it's like a businessman and meets a fisherman, right? He meets this fisherman who's catching fish in this remote village. The businessman asks the fisherman, hey, what are you doing? The fisherman goes, oh, I'm just relaxing and catching some fish. Well, the businessman goes, hey, do you know if you were to... Actually, no, it goes, yeah, I'm going to catch some fish today and then go home and spend some time with my family. And then the businessman goes, hey, if you were to hire fishermen or get a bigger boat, you could catch more fish and make more money, right? And then with that money, you could buy bigger business, scale out, right? If you work hard and are determined, you could build a great business of catching fish and selling it in the market and be a millionaire. And then the fisherman goes, oh, well, that sounds great, but what would I do with my time after that? And the businessman goes, oh, enjoy yourself, catch a few fish of your own, spend some time with your family, right? We forget the power of the present moment. We have everything we need here. We just need to connect with that within ourselves. There's no point in me denying happiness for the future and denying happiness in the present moment to invest in air commas to the future, when happiness is here to be let into your life and enjoyed now. And I think for a lot of people, including myself, right, this is one of my biggest lessons when I had started my transformation journey, one of my learnings that I've strayed from. And that's why I want to talk about it now, because it's a fantastic reminder to myself that there is no happiness on the other side, right? You are not happy on the other side of whatever you're trying to pursue in life. There is happiness here now. There is happiness in the present moment, to be grateful for where you are, to be on that journey, right? Finding happiness in the journey of growth, not hating yourself and not feeling like you are complete in this moment until you get to that perceived other side. All right, that's a big lesson in any of your self-development, is no matter how big the journey, do not feel like you cannot be happy until it's done. You need to practice being happy now, because the present moment, when you come down to it, is all we have. We have our minds and the present moment. All right. Speaking of, painful reminders to myself, there was something that really hit me in the guts and sort of forced me into this realization this week that I got, and I'll share it with you guys here now. There's a great podcaster called Chris Williamson. He's got a podcast called Modern Wisdom, I believe. I haven't actually seen his podcast, but I do enjoy his clips, right? He's a well put together guy. He's interviewing great people, and he looks like he's just there for the benefit of others. And he does share some absolute bangers of insights. And this is one that he had with Alex Hormozy that hit me right in the guts. He goes, you've already achieved something you said would make you happy, and it hasn't, right? And that hit me in the guts, because for months, right, from May till August 27th, right, for those 3 months, I was dreaming and pushing and manifesting and praying for the top 1% prize at Cisco. And a lot of my anxiety that came in that period where I was close to burning out, well, I would say I burnt out, was from the anxiousness to achieve the top 1%, because I thought it would be everything that I needed to make my business successful, the Tech Sales Academy, And, all my problems will be solved. It's such fantastic leverage. And that's enough proof that my course will be enough and it'll sell plenty and I'll be happy and I'll be able to create impact on other people and be able to make this business a success, helping people, adding positivity into the universe. Great. And then I achieved it and I got it. And it was great for a second, right? It was great for a few minutes, a few days. I'll say, right? But almost immediately, I had turned that glory into, okay, I need to get the fucking course out now so I can maximize this and, get something out of it. And here I am, barely 3 months after I've received that prize, right? That thing that I thought would make me happy and complete. And I'm agonizing over the business that I'm building that I thought would help me in that process. And I am almost back to ground zero as far as of my own belief, or as that mountain of self-belief I was supposed to build from that top 1%. Is here I am for the last few weeks scrambling and feeling like I'm drowning and not getting enough work done, even though I thought that prize would be it. And that, it sucks to be hit like that, right? To go, fuck, how quickly the glory fades, how quickly your happiness can disappear when you create, and when your mind will just fixate on the next problem that it has to solve so quickly. Right? Not even taking enough time to savor where you are on the mountain, to take a breath and go, shit, man, this is great. I can't believe I am here. This is so amazing. And I did do that, right? I have done that. Don't get me wrong. I went to New York, treated myself for a little bit, but so quickly, I already feel like I'm drowning. And I shouldn't be. I really shouldn't be, because I am in a unique position and I believe it. I just need to get it out into the world so other people believe it, which they will, because my conviction and my will and my skills will speak for it. But until it's out there, until I make that leap and I cross this dangerous bridge in my mind from not having an income to having an income, that's what I've got to fight, is this internal war inside and this low hum of anxiety telling me that I am not enough and I am not safe. And it's brutal, right? It's brutal to be here after and, think so, to be back in survival mode so quickly after all of the amazing things that we've recounted over the last 12 months in last week's episode. And, it's a timely reminder for myself, and hopefully maybe there's something in your lives that you can think about right now where you might have felt that, right? And going, fuck, is that our minds, no matter how fucking much you try and self-optimize and work on yourself and, try to make your life better, this fucking annoying default mode of your ego getting in the way, trying to keep you in your current position, trying to protect you by projecting danger into the outside world, to protect you, in air commas, from the unknown. It just keeps doing it, no matter at any level of growth in self-development. Your ego will always be there, casting aspersions in front of you, creating this wall of illusion of negativity and doubt and what if and not enough, and it's unsafe. Despite the mountain and of awards or ways that you've proven to yourself that you can do it and you can do anything you want, it'll still get you, and that boss just keeps getting harder and harder to fight. And that's another thing I want to think, or another quip that sort of sits in my head a fair bit. It's a quote from comedian Louis C.K. And I can't remember where he said this, but I think it maybe there's a podcast interview or something like that. But he goes, things don't get easier in life. You just get better at dealing with them, right? And it's so true, because the final boss is my mind. But your mind is also all you have, right? Everything that you understand about yourself, your consciousness, your belief system, every form of your identity exists in your mind. And it is both your best friend and your worst enemy. And it really is about that conscious direction of putting your ego and your mind to work for you through conscious activities every single day, or else the entropy that we just talked about before, the slow degradation of those systems will occur, right? And they will atrophy and they will rot, and then you will revert back into your survival mode state and think that you are not worthy and you are not capable of doing the things that you need to do in life. And it's sad, but that is the reality, right? And the little analogy that sort of came to mind when I thought about this is like this whole final boss aspect is, think about the final boss in a game, right? If your mind is the final boss, or one of those really, you're in a video game, you're late in the game, and you've got, if you're playing some sort of RPG, your character, right? They've got all the weapons, they've got all the skills, right? So you've got yourself put together and you're ready to fight this boss. And this boss, right? This final boss, they're big, they're scary, they're difficult. They hit you, right? And when they hit you, they would absolutely decimate the early game version of you, right? One hit would fucking knock you out. That's why there are levels, right? That's why you can't just go fight the dragon when you're off Tutorial Island or some shit. Because you haven't built up the tank. You haven't built up the HP and that armor, right? No matter, the game gets harder, but you've gotten stronger in that process. And just now I feel like there's a new boss, and I'm at a new level because I'm flying solo, right? So the new world that I'm existing in, I am now the little fish in a big pond. I'm a little fish in the big pond of the world now, because I'm not contained in my little ecosystem of just having to impress customers in my little world of tech sales, right? In my little portfolio. I have to go fish and hunt and gather in the real world now, the big boy shit. And it feels like the competition has just gotten way bigger, and I feel small. And the hits that come from the world, which haven't actually even come yet, I feel like they're knocking me for six right now. So part of that is my own fears, and I'm not helping myself by falling out of good habits and good behaviors and a good mindset, right? So that's why I want to go into Friar Mode, is to rebuild my skills, knuckle down, get this course right, and focus and hone in, so the rest of my year will just be about iterating and a lot less work, but also making sure that I make time for me, connections, for my health, right? My physical, mental, spiritual health, quality connections and other. Going out, getting my head out of this fucking mess of building a business, right? Another thing about monk mode is it's not pretty, okay? Monk mode is not pretty. It is clumsy. It is cantankerous. It is fucking just, you're a mess, because you are deconstructing and reassembling yourself. Right? When we talk about cocooning away, you think a caterpillar is, just blowing up wings and then off it goes to a butterfly? No, it has to literally turn into goo, right? It has to literally turn into a gross goo that has to reassemble itself into a form, into its final form. And that goo, that mess is not pretty. And you will feel lost, and you will feel confused, and you will wonder what the fuck you were doing in the first place. But It's always worth it. It's always fucking worth it, man. If you do it right, if you believe in yourself, if you have a clear vision of what you want a better version of you to be, go be the monk, right? Go off and start in monk mode. Get out into the big wide world. Actually, don't get out in the big wide world. Hide from the big wide bad world. Knuckle down. Work on yourself. Assess all your connections. Assess yourself, right? Really take a moment to analyze every aspect of your day. And there is so much of yourself that I'm sure if you're just starting out in this journey that you are unconscious of, right? Your unconscious habits, the way you consume media, for example, right? It's not just it's not just about the physical transformation and watching your physical diet. You've got to watch your mental diet, right? Have you got friends that are fuckwits? Are you consuming too much bullshit on social media? Are you consuming too much social media? Are you consuming too many video games and too many distractions instead of working on the things that you should be doing, right? I wasted many of my teenage and developmental years on video games, on numbing myself and getting cheap, easy dopamine from RuneScape and Counter-Strike and, just countless video games that I used to play at the cost of having fitness, having love, having experiences that other teenagers had. Right? I feel like I am having of this transformation, having a second puberty and having all the experiences that I should have had, 18 years ago. Less. No, more around 18, yeah. 15 to 18, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, man, like monk mode. Big fan of it. Disappear. You will love it eventually. You'll hate it. You'll question it, but it is absolutely worth it. And just to round this off, what would I be doing if I were you in the monk mode now? Again, just focusing on your systems, building systems of physical, mental, spiritual health, right? Get your diet right, get your exercise, get your sleep right, get your hormones right as well. Mental systems, learn how to meditate, learn how to be mindful. What do I use to start with that? Sam Harris's Waking Up app, free month, look it up, do the 30-day mindfulness course, amazing. That's where I got my start. Journal every day, all right? There's an episode of journaling, previous eps, have a look at that. Spiritual systems, get a therapist, that's a mental system. Therapy, right? Speak to a professional about your mental health. Absolutely worth it. Go get a mental health care plan if you need to, if you're in Australia. If you can afford a therapist, great investment. Absolutely do so. Spiritual systems, right? Gratitude. Number one, be grateful for the present moment. Be grateful for what you do have. Be grateful for the opportunity that you have today to make things better for yourself, to take that step forward, to get from 0 to 1 and get that momentum moving forward for you, right? Grateful, right? Connect your heart. Be present with the feeling of gratitude. Channel a time where you have felt that warmth in your heart of being genuinely grateful for other people. Connect that, feel that in your body. And when you have that feeling in your body, speak to God, pray. Thank you for what you've given me. Thank you for where I am. And thank you for the opportunities ahead. That's where I started, right? Faith. Believing in that higher power, believing that the universe wants to work in your favor, and it does if you work earnestly, if you work with purity, if you work with that nice, pure intent of wanting to serve, wanting to help others. Right? My last spiritual system is service, being of service to people. You have to put good out into the world, right? That is one of the things that sort of carries me, has one of my successes as a technology seller has been my service to others, right? That is one of my absolute cornerstones of success, is that I have given myself fully to customers to help solve their problems without concern about me getting the sale, getting the money in, right? when you are genuine about serving others for their well-being, for their benefit, without necessarily wanting anything for yourself, people notice that. They understand it, they respect it, right? That's the law of reciprocation in action. And the more you give, right, that is karma. What does karma mean? Karma means action. If you put out good actions, good intending actions into the world, you will get paid back handsomely. And that is what has been the success of my technology sales career. And now I have to rewire and reconfigure that understanding of what has made me immensely successful as a tech seller into the real world, and rewire myself and re-architect myself and my perspective into the real world, because I'm dealing with real people in the real world. I was over here in the tech sales world, but now that it's on a bigger scale, it looks and feels different, but the principles still apply, right? Being a good person, being of service, being generous, creating immense value, and then money won't be a problem. And here I am speaking to you about this shit, right? And it's easy to say on paper, the talk is cheap, but I need to remind myself that that is what is going to be the recipe for success in the real big world when I take on the world in my own way as a solo entrepreneur. And that's why I need Friar Mode, right? That is why I need Friar Mode, to remember the great things that I've done to get here, and remember that you are working to live, and that you have the answers. You just have to package them up in a way that others can understand that as well. And this is a timely reminder for myself, and hopefully a great lesson and reminder for you about making sure that you take a moment to appreciate life in amongst all the work and the chaos. Maybe it is time for you to jump into monk mode and work on yourself hard and deep, and come out on the other side a completely fucking different person. And I hope you do, right? I hope you do. Start with monk mode. 6 months is what I recommend monk mode. 3 to 6 months. 6 is good. Again, nailing great behaviors, physical, mental, spiritual health. And again, as always, bingers, if you need help with that, if you've got any questions, reach out to your boy, send a DM, send an email, right? I am always here to be of service to you. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Binge Thinker for this week. Thank you for your time and attention. As always, if you love what I'm doing here, give it a 5 stars on your platform of choice. If you're on the YouTubes, give us a big old subscribe. What I am doing now is that I talked about last week, the mailing list. That is all coming together now. I did talk about a mailing list a while ago. I never did anything with it. Now I have to create a genuine mailing list for the Tech Sales Academy. And what I'm doing as my newsletter, which is an essential part of the solo entrepreneurial journey, a newsletter, is that every week I will now be publishing a free lesson from the Tech Sales Academy of my course to make you a better tech seller, and one of my systems, my performance systems, physical, mental, spiritual health systems. I will be posting that once a week as part of the newsletter. So if you want all of my documented systems, if you want to learn how to sell tech or just sell like a bad motherfucker and make some great money, I will put a link to the 1% Club. That is the name of the newsletter. It's not the most original name, the 1% Club. There are other newsletters that say that, but I figured I'm aiming for the top 1% in everything I do. But it's called the Top 1% Club newsletter. 1 tech sales lesson every week, 1 high performance system every week. So in your inbox for you to peruse and to use over and over again to build that immense toolbox of capabilities that I've always been talking about on this podcast. It is going to be there for you every week, starting in a couple of weeks. So please make sure you sign up to the mailing list. That is my ask of you good people, as well as liking and subscribing. That's really about it. Join the mailing list. That's all I'm going to ask of you guys. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Next week, folks, we'll just keep talking. I don't know what the episode's going to be, but it'll be worth it. Thank you very much for your time and attention, bingers. I'm Jamil Raymond. See you next week.